to Iraq together on a holy pilgrimage. So it was a really good experience, and that is why today we're going to be talking. We won't be taking any questions, unfortunately, because we can do that on another day. But आज हम बात करने जा रहे हैं. तो अस्सलाम वालेकुम, and both of us have gone in respectively from our Instagrams. Yay! So you can save this video and share it to you later. But just chit-chatting about spirituality, mental health. Sorry, it's your show.
No.
मैं host हूँ ना, मुझे problem है.
No, I was thinking that you're the host and I'm hosting you, so it's I don't know. But okay, so why did I ask Anoushy to come here and speak to us about spirituality? Generally, people expect religious scholars and people in that field to come and talk about God and spirituality, but I've been on a mission to make God more accessible to people like us who are ordinary people who believe, who hold God in our hearts very sacred, and who love God with everything. And it is something so powerful and beautiful in each one of our lives. Allah touches us in so many different ways, but I saw something really beautiful in Anoushy when I traveled with her. And what really inspired me about her was that with everything that she does, the field that she works in, her aqidah, her faith, her belief in God, the way she carries her faith with so much pride and so much love and calm, it really inspired me to learn something from her about how she has, what kind of relationship does she have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what kind of connection does she feel with the divine, and how does it come in handy in her daily life. And to have this busy schedule, to be part of show business, to be meeting so many people on a daily basis, and yet being able to keep herself together with so much grace.
Not so much grace, but
I'm totally floored by her inner and outer beauty.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. That's really sweet.
I'm really in awe. So I don't know how I'm.
Stop it, Fatimah.
Okay, so I gave a little briefing to Anoushy of what we're going to be talking today. So my first question for you is, Anoushy, do you think there's a difference between religion and spirituality? मजहब और रूहानियत के बीच में कोई फर्क है?
That's a very interesting question. I think वो एक दूसरे को overlap ज़रूर करते हैं, लेकिन बेशक मैं ये सोचना समझती हूँ कि मैं शायद ज़्यादा रूहानियत की तरफ हूँ, religious कम हूँ. But I mean, personally, if you have spirituality, and if you're following your religion through spirituality, you're kind of covering both bases. So I wouldn't say they're very different from each other, but yes, I do tend to feel like spirituality somehow offers a person like me more than just being religious does. And that is something that I have taken to, and it's really helped with my mental health. It's really helped with my emotional health, and I guess there's a very thin line between the two. There's a difference, and yet they kind of merge in places where they should.
Okay, so
perhaps.
So sometimes people would ask me this question that नमाज तो ISIS और दाइश वाले भी पढ़ते हैं, right? रोज़े वो भी रखते हैं, और उनमें majority हिफ्ज़ कुरान हाफिज़ कुरान होते हैं. So what is it about ibadat and worship that holds the essence to purification of the heart, right?
For me, so I was never one of those children my mother was never like, somehow she wasn't that person. I don't know why. But she would say her prayers 5 times a day, and she would be like, I can only tell you what's good for you. I cannot enforce it upon you. I cannot, zabardasti make you say your prayers if it's not coming from the heart. And when I turned 18, she was like, now you're on your own. Right. She's like, my responsibility with you is done. You finished the Quran. You finished. You know how to read your namaz, you know everything that you need to know, and now it's your problem with God. It's not my responsibility any longer. Right. So you know, I kind of liked that approach of hers, and namaz came to me much later, and spirituality came to me much later, but it came to me at a time when I was ready for it, which I'm very thankful about. So namaz to sab padhte hain, but for me, the more I read about, actually, if I may be honest, the more I read about religion and spirituality and Sufism, is the more I came towards the Prophet and his family and their stories, reading about how they were, what they did, and started getting closer to my faith through their stories. Right. And eventually, I realized that it isn't even being about Muslim or non-Muslim or saying your prayers, or it's about believing in the fact that, you know, the Prophet and his family, they were some of the greatest people in the world. And no matter which faith, ethnicity, wherever you're from, they're really for everybody. Absolutely. They do not discriminate. They're for every individual on this planet. And they relate to everybody. So for me, this was the experience कि मैं तो कोई बेहतरीन मुसलमान तो नहीं हूँ, लेकिन जितना मुझे प्यार है और relatability है, वो तो कोई नहीं describe कर सकता.
That's amazing, and that's what you exude, you know, this beauty and passion. And that's why Rasulullah is called Rahmatul lil Alameen, right? Not like Rahmatul lil Muslimin, कि खाली मुसलमानों के लिए mercy है. He is mercy for all worlds, not just human beings, but animals and plants and even perhaps aliens.
Yeah, and I see that so many times on my radio show and stuff as well. I'm like, you know, when I start my morning with Surah Rahman, the birds in my neighborhood, my cats and dogs, and all the animals around me, they come and sit and they listen almost like they are in worship as well, or they are meditating with me. And it's such a beautiful experience, क्योंकि एक तो फजर का वक्त हो रहा होता है, ऊपर से मैं क्योंकि अकेले रहती हूँ तो जानवर और परिंदे और दरख्त भी हैं, and they're breathing organisms, and the way you see them respond. I mean, the cat comes from I don't know where she knows कि अच्छा अब सूर्य मान का वक्त है, मैं आके बैठ के let me focus on this.
So this is amazing, right? And Quran में भी la ikraha fi deen, there's no force in religion. And you know, there's a saying of Imam Ali where he says that give your advice only when somebody asks for it. Reason being that if your cup is empty and you are feeling thirsty for something, then when somebody gives it to you, you feel ready for it, right? So आपने इतनी अच्छी बात की कि your mom did not force you, but she let you, you know, she taught you through example.
Yes.
And it infused in you.
All the rozas they kept, all the namaz they always read. Yet my mother was a savior of animals. We always had puppies in the house from the streets that we were saving. And my mother was always very okay with us working on TV. She was very okay with us. But she's like, you know, more than anything else, the first thing I want my children to be are good people.
Wow.
And honest people. And everything else will come to you all. And I can vouch and say that my mother has raised 3 very honest girls.
Yes, and I can vouch. I mean, vouching for yourself is one thing, but when others vouch for you, random people, strangers like me who got so close to you just while traveling, and there's actually a hadith that says that,
so nice.
That trip was amazing, and you know, there's a hadith which says that if you want to know somebody, you see how they are while traveling. You know, because you're away from home and all of that. So it's really touching how leading by example can infuse the love of divine and give you a grounding which nobody can take away from you no matter what.
Yes.
And you know, it's really important that there's a hadith of the Prophet, and he said that there's 70 ways to teach and do tabligh and preaching, and the last one is through the tongue. So
wow,
right? So
oh my goodness, really? I need to quote this one because I get a lot of lectures.
So that's why it is so beautiful that parents. I'm a parent of 3 kids, and I have noticed this, that the things that children see us do, they stay with them forever. And they say that what parents say becomes the children's inner dialogue.
Right.
तो अगर हमारे पेरेंट्स हमें ह्यूमैनिटी, काइंडनेस, ऑनेस्टी वाली वैल्यूज़ बता रहे हैं, सिखा रहे हैं और एम्यूलेट करके दिखा रहे हैं, nobody can take that away from our children, no matter what situation or place they're in.
Very,
You know.
true.
So
I'm just see if my volume is working.
Okay.
All right, it is working great. क्योंकि मुझे मेरा कैमरा थोड़ा दूर लग रहा था, सॉरी, और ये कैमरा बहुत करीब है. But done. ठीक है जी, आवाज आ रही है.
Hope everyone can hear us properly.
Yes, the topic is mental health and spirituality.
Yes,
you guys.
and thank you everyone who's tuned in, and walaikum salam to all the salams. So we discussed the difference between spirituality and religion, and Anoushy beautifully explained how I think ruhaniyat and spirituality is something which is very personal. It is inside of us, and religion somehow takes the shape of outer actions of what you wear and what you say and how you behave. But मेरा ये हमेशा से believe रहा है कि अगर आपकी roots, आपकी unseen inner world अगर infused है with goodness, तो वो जैसे tree होता है ना कि उसकी अगर roots are healthy तो उसका fruit भी वही होता है.
बिल्कुल सही है.
तो अगर हम अंदर से well nourished हैं spiritually, तो हमारे behaviors on the outside will automatically show that. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that totally.
So my next question, and it might be a little personal, is that do you think we need to wear God on our sleeves and show it all the time that we are religious or we are into religion? Or
I think you need to offer an explanation to anybody about your actions. So for me, a lot of people keep telling me that अच्छा इराक गई थी तो हिजाब पहन लिया था, वापस आई तो म्यूजिक चैनल पे काम करती हैं, you know. And for me, I think over the years, my communication with Allah and my communication with with the Prophet, his family, members of his family, they became so direct in my own heart, in my own head, that I was very indifferent to what people started saying to me. Because I felt like I was communicating with them directly. You know, I've shared my story about how I ended up in Iraq so many times over. And I don't wear religion on my sleeve. I don't take the parda. I don't, go around teaching people. I'm in no position to. I'm in no position to teach anybody. But I'm only in the position to speak for myself. And for me, I think my insides needed some sort of awakening. And that happened, when I was diagnosed with depression, and it was a hard time for me. And for me, that's when I realized that there's no discrimination. I used to go to my prayer mat and I was just used to pray for some help, some guidance, and it came irrespective of all my harkats that I've done, all these years that I spent working for music channels and according to people, not just been a good enough Muslim. But when that response sort of came, I started becoming more and more inclined towards religion. And so I guess I always want to remain in the middle.
Okay.
So there's one question that people ask me: will you ever take the job? Will you never, and I'm like, I don't know. And I don't have any plans to, because it's one big move.
Right.
So I just am working on being a better person.
Right.
Every day.
It's so beautiful. Thank you. Because like you said in the middle, there's a verse in the Quran which says that the Muslims are Ummatul Wusta. We are the nation that stays in the middle.
Middle. Okay. And, really?
Yeah.
Really?
And
wow,
we have to be moderate, right? Not this side, not that side. And there's a story of Bahlul. He was a wise man in the time of Hazrat Imam Sadiq. And he had taken on religion as a play because he was under prosecution for. तो वो दिखाते थे कि वो मजनून है, like he lost his mind, insane, but he was actually a very wise man. So one day people saw him with a log of wood, and he was picking it up from one side, and then he was trying to pick it up from the other side, and he was just doing this again and again. And they said, Bahlul, what are you doing? Have you lost your mind? And he said, इधर से उठाता हूँ तो आसान है, उधर से उठाता हूँ तो आसान है, बीच से उठाना बड़ा मुश्किल है. So to walk the middle path, as the nation of the Prophet is our true challenge, to stay moderate. And
wow. So thank you. This is like a lesson. I should like sign up for like Fatimah's classes on religion so I could at least quote the right things to people, right, when they say things like that to me. And it is the middle path. Yeah, I would say, because मुझे सिर्फ इमाम अली का कॉल पता है. He was like, you know, मियाना रवि होनी चाहिए हर चीज में. There should be a balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Prophet always says, right, innamal a'malu binniyat, that amal ka daru madar aapki niyaton par hai. What is your intention, right? And then we see that you know, we hear that there's a story of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, where Musa alayhi salam asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala कि मेरे neighbor कौन होंगे जन्नत में. And Allah gives him the address कि आप इधर इधर जाएं और ये बंदा है वो आपके जन्नत में neighbor है. And when Hazrat Musa finds the place, he realizes that it's a very tiny dingy house of a butcher. Of a butcher. Okay. Nobody knows him. He's just going about his daily life, living a normal life. And Hazrat Musa says, you know, I asked Allah, and Allah said that you are going to be my neighbor in Jannat, and I'm so impressed. And I'm just wondering, what is it that you did that made you deserve this beautiful position? And Hazrat and he says, just come inside. I don't know what I've done, anything special. और जब वो उनके घर में जाते हैं तो वो देखते हैं कि एक बूढ़ी माँ है जिसकी वो खिदमत करता है अकेले, you know, the butcher. And that's what Allah liked, something very small, you know, something that was done with this purity and sincerity of the heart.
And these examples are there like in the thousands, not even the hundreds, of kindness, of being good to people from all faiths, being good to animals, nature. Because a lot of people ask me, oh, but God doesn't say anything about you know, nature and animals and their rights. I was like, that's not true actually. We just don't know enough stories.
So one day,
so one day, on their rights, right? So one day I actually sat down with this alim. I can't even remember his name. Okay. I'm so bad. But I did ask him. I was like, tell me stories about the Prophet and his ravaiya with animals. I want to know. And then I heard miracle stories of him with dogs, him with cats, him with camels, birds. You know, any animal that he interacted with, plants, trees, this, that, and I was then satisfied.
And you know, the Prophet
nobody's ever spoken about
this. So beautiful. You know, the Prophet used to value everything as a living thing, even his chair and his shoe, and he would name things. He would name things.
Give them an identity.
Give them an identity. Talk to them, respect them. It's there in authentic ahadith. I mean, we can get those references, but it's all there that he used to give respect to even non-living things. So, फिर आप living things की तो बात, you know, क्या करेंगे?
हमें meditation में मैंने तो ये इस्लाम इतना पढ़ा नहीं है, लेकिन मुझे इतना ज़रूर पता है कि you know, even if there is a phone here, people say, look at it sometimes and see where it's come from, feel it and see this too has a story. It was put together somewhere by somebody.
Yes.
You know, somebody put the screen on it. Somebody chose the color for it. It has its own little story going in this world.
Absolutely.
Even though it's an inanimate object.
But the atoms are moving. There is life, and there is everything is working with a certain energy, and it's a vibration, and that is what we understand when it comes to emotions. Emotions are energy in motion.
Yes.
Right? And emotions give us anxiety, they give us panic. So tell us how have you found any kind of solace or peace? Like you said, you read Surah Rahman and you get up at Fajr and you do your conversations with Allah. And how has that helped you with this energy, with this emotional work?
It's really helped me. Like having faith has seen me through the darkest of days. And praying to God has sort of, you know, made me believe that things will be better. And it happened. It happened for me because, you know, today also right before I came, I was listening to Dua Kumail. And I was like just reading the translation and I'm like, you know, it's so beautifully said on our behalf that we must recite it. Must, because it asks for forgiveness and guidance even when you've been the worst person in the world. So I was like, तो मेरी जगह कहीं ना कहीं बन जाती है. You know, I haven't been that bad. But and there is space. There is space, and you know, and when that happened, it kind of gave me hope and light.
So tell us your story, how you ended up going to Iraq. I remember you telling us there was a very mystical experience there. If you're okay with sharing.
Yes, of course. I'll tell you what happened with Iraq. So my cousin Sadia Hashim, may God bless her, she was going off to Iraq and she was insisting, and I'd already done my Umrah 2 years ago, mashallah. I had the opportunity to go to God's house and to pay my salams to the Prophet, and I went with my parents and it was a beautiful experience. Uske baad I was like, next up is going to be Imam Ali and Imam Hussain, and I really want to go to them. I was नियत थी मेरी, लेकिन मैं 3 साल से विद कोविड एंड कोशिश कर रही थी कि अभी चले जाऊँ, फिर मुझे काम सॉफ्ट नहीं मिला, मेरी कुछ रिकॉर्डिंग्स हो गई, फिर मुझे टाइम नहीं मिला, फिर जब मैंने वीज़ा के लिए अप्लाई किया तो my passport had gone to the American embassy ironically, so it wasn't back in time. I missed going to Iraq like 3, 4, 5 times. So I was kind of really upset, and I was like, this is just not working out, there's so much going on, but Iraq nahi jana ho raha. So my cousin Sadia was going and she said, chalo, I'm going in 10 days. So I tried. I called up the travel agent. He's like, आपको काफिले के साथ ही जाना पड़ेगा, काफिले के साथ ही आना पड़ेगा. I was like, मैं 2 दिन पहले नहीं आ सकती, मेरी कमिटमेंट है यहाँ पे. He's like, नहीं, वो exit, entry, पता नहीं क्या. So I kind of just gave up and I was like, it's not happening, it will happen when it has to. So she said, ठीक है. My cousin was like, why don't you send a letter? And it's called an arziya. I had never arzi. I didn't even ever know about it. So I was like, okay. She's like, you write जो मांगती हो लिख के भेज दो. Okay. और जिसको भी भेजना है भेज दो. Out of Hazrat Abbas is there, Imam Hussain is there, Imam Ali is there. So I was like, okay. So I'm a big fan of Hazrat Ali. Hazrat Ali Rasulullah. So a big fan. So I was like, okay, I've been reading his work for so long. He has inspired me so much, and he was so close to the Prophet that I feel like he was first point of reference when it comes down to the Prophet, right? So I sort of sent him a letter. Just symbolic. It's not religious, so I don't want anybody thinking कि किसी से मांग रहे हैं, अल्लाह से मांगना चाहिए. लोगों ने मुझसे कहा कि आप अली से क्यों मांग रहे हैं, आप अल्लाह से मांगे. हम अल्लाह से ही मांगते हैं हमेशा. I think these people were just so saintly and holy that they could put in a better word, than you or I can. So I wrote to him and I was like, Assalamu alaikum. I actually started the letter on a very formal, but like it was almost weird. I'm like, I'm writing to, and I was like, I've been meaning to come to Iraq and I've been meeting to pay my salams, and I've been going through this and that, and coming to you will make me happy, and it's one of my dreams. And I sent it to my cousin, and my cousin then 3 days later sent me a picture with the letter, and she said, मैंने deliver कर दिया भाई. I'm the messenger who's taken the message across. Right. So I was like, ठीक है, done. 4 days later. Okay. 4 days later, you guys. 4 days later. There's this beautiful girl by the name of Faiza. Faiza. If she's watching. Yeah. She sent me a little poster on WhatsApp for a little trip that they were organizing to Iraq. And I was like, what? And that's when I started shaking because I was like, this is a direct message from Imam Ali ki beta. तुमने पूछा, मैंने बुला लिया. So I quickly checked my dates. My dates were off. I had enough time to get my visa sorted. I had enough time to prepare, and I was there in a month.
And it happened, and that letter was replied to in this beautiful way,
which reinstated my faith, because sometimes I do I read a lot. I read a lot of things. Right. So I even read a lot of things that are written by atheists, for instance, and why they don't believe in religion, or why, and I feel like ठीक है, is their point of view, and I respect that also.
Absolutely.
ठीक है, you don't need to believe in anything.
There's no force. Yeah.
There's no force. And where are you coming from? Somebody's using science as a logic. These days I'm reading Yuval Harari, who is he was born Jewish, but he doesn't identify with any faith any longer. He's like, I've given up on religion. Right. I feel like it's outdated, is what he said. Sure. Which is his opinion. And I sort of I'm human, right? And he backs his science, and he backs his stuff with intellect and research, and I'm just a mere human being. But I know how religion makes me feel. Right. And I know how having faith has made me feel. Right. And it has made me feel better. It has made me feel hopeful in days when I've felt hopeless, and it's made me feel like I have value and worth in this world, and hence it has really resonated with me. For those who do not believe, I guess it'll come to you if it has to.
And I really love what you said about feeling, because there were beautiful gems in everything that you said.
Thank you.
The calling to God and then being answered. Quran says, "Uduni astajib lakum," ask me and I will respond. Right? And but the part where you said about feeling it, it's so important, because they say that mystics, the journey of a mystic, a person who is exploring the mystery of God is a mystic, right?
Yeah.
And for the mystic, the journey to God is a few inches, and they say that those inches are from the brain to the heart.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So heart is God's device. Heart is where we can find God, and Allah says that the whole universe cannot encompass me, but the heart of a believer can, right?
Wow.
So Allah lives in this heart, and this is where we can connect to Him. So if we are trying to logically, prove the existence of God, I have found enough proof for that, because I'm a devout believer, so I'm probably biased around there. But when it comes to feeling something, that's why I feel कि ये जो हम बातें करते हैं ना, कि अल्लाह कहते हैं कि I love you more than 70 mothers. He associates himself with mothers because औरत जो होती है ना, वो दिल और emotions वाली होती है, and so अल्लाह ताला हमें दिल से connect करते हैं ना, मोहब्बत से, love and mercy and acceptance no matter what. यहाँ तक कि there was a man who was clinging on to the cloth of the Kaaba and crying profusely in the morning. और वहाँ से हज़रत अली गुजरे और उन्होंने देखा कि ये बंदा बहुत रो रहा है, तो तुम क्या कर, बोले मेरे से गुनाह हो गया, मैं माफ़ी मांग रहा हूँ. और जब हज़रत अली शाम में वापस आए तो वो वहीं खड़ा हुआ रो रहा था, अभी तक माफ़ी मांग रहा था. तो उन्होंने कहा तुम्हें क्या हो गया, व्हाट आर यू डूइंग? ही सेड नहीं, मैंने बहुत बुरा काम किया है और मैं माफ़ी मांग रहा हूँ. तो हज़रत अली सेड, this is kufr, don't do this, Allah will forgive you immediately. Do you think that Allah's mercy is smaller than your sin?
Wow.
So, Allah's mercy is all encompassing and His arms are always open.
Wow.
I'm really tempted to share one more.
Please.
Because I know that, I'm interviewing you, but I just feel like...
No, I also want to learn.
I want to share something beautiful that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala कि आप जाएं और आप कोई ऐसे बंदे से या कोई ऐसी चीज लेकर आए जिससे आप अफजल हैं. Like Musa is better than that. Okay. So Hazrat Musa went around looking, and he just couldn't find until he comes across a carcass, a old dead body, rotting body of a dog. Okay, and he sees that it's infested with all kinds of insects and things are eating on it, feeding from it, and he looks at it for a minute and then he turns around and he goes back to Allah and he says, Allah, मुझे इस दुनिया में कोई भी ऐसी चीज नहीं मिली जिससे मैं बेहतर. Okay,
humility.
Okay, so Allah turns around and Allah says, Musa, अगर आपने किसी भी चीज को कहा होता ना कि उससे आप बेहतर हैं, तो मैं आपसे आपकी नबूवत ले लेता. Because you need to be in that humble place. So the hadith says that if you have even an iota, even a dot of arrogance in you, you will not smell the khushbu of Jannat, and the khushbu of Jannat spreads 50,000 years around Jannat.
Yeah, that's what I pray for every day, for humility. Because sometimes you walk into public space, people know you, you take pride in who you are, and you're like, yeah, she wants to selfie with me. And then I'm like, I'm really guilty.
I love that about you.
Like just stay down to earth. And I think my family and friends are always there to remind me, yeah.
No, but the reason I share this with you is because I find that humility in you. But what I feel scared of is that people like me who are preachers, we become arrogant. And we somehow lose our path and we start thinking कि हम किसी से बेहतर हो गए हैं, हमें तो ज़्यादा पता है, हम तो हिजाब ओढ़ लेते हैं, हम तो नमाज पढ़ते हैं, हम तो रोज़े रखते हैं. और हज़रत मूसा नबी होते हुए भी ये कह रहे हैं कि मैं उस डेड डॉग से भी अफजल नहीं हूँ. So, you know, we have to be so careful that, you know, religion...
With your judgment and with your...
Exactly. Doesn't take us off the track, because aisa na ho ke in the end we lose the whole plot. You know?
I agree, and I think my Iraq experience also taught me one other thing.
Please.
The fact that, you know, people from all faiths are welcome. There were Hindus there, there were Christians there.
Absolutely.
And they were there, and I was like, my goodness, there were Sunnis there, there were Shias there. And I was like, वाकई में मैंने एक चीज़ अपनी आँखों से देख लिया है कि हम as mere humans discriminate करते हैं, लेकिन रसूलुल्लाह उनकी जो family है, हज़रत अली, इमाम हुसैन, they opened for everybody, everybody. So for that, you know, I was amazed at the kind of response, and hence I too sometimes respect others from other religions. If there is a pope or if there is some high priest, I never disrespect, because I feel like this is not my place, right? I cannot disrespect them, so I respect their opinion. Someday I'd love to interview this gentleman called Sadhguru, who I listen to. He's very interesting, the things he says. So I was like, I would love to hear him also.
Yes.
But that doesn't weaken your faith, and that doesn't mean you're giving room and accommodation to other religions, you know. But I guess that's my personal journey. But it's difficult to explain, because there's such a hardcore stance that a lot of people take, and it's scary.
How does it make you feel?
Sometimes a little scared, you know. Sometimes a little scared because I feel like लोग सुन नहीं सकते, उन्हें सुनने के लिए उनमें वो है नहीं,
Stamina.
हाँ, या वो तैयार नहीं है सुनने के लिए. And then because हम पाकिस्तान में I feel like लोगों को इस वक्त एजुकेशन की बहुत ज़रूरत है, उनको अच्छे एक्सपोजर की ज़रूरत है before they're ready to hear some really hard and harsh truths, you know. And if you just give it to them on a plate right now, they're gonna have your head on a plate. So that's kind of a little scary. And so a lot of people literally, I've met so many people who hide what they believe.
Absolutely.
I meet so many people who don't discuss who they are and what they are and who they follow, because they're just scared.
So एक किस्म की कैद है. You don't have the freedom of choice which Islam is giving. Like राफ़िद्दीन हमें मिल नहीं रहा, बल्कि उसी इस्लाम के नाम पे हमें कैद किया जाता है, और हमें अपने बिलीफ, अपनी ट्रूथ्स को एक्सप्रेस करने की आज़ादी नहीं मिलती.
हाँ, नहीं मिलती. और
क्योंकि हम शायद
इस्लाम को भी हमने इतना वो बांट दिया politically, और so इसीलिए जब ऊपर से आप देखें ना, you see countries and you see कि ये country में हिजाब करना ज़रूरी है, उस country में आप उतना नहीं रख सकते, इस country में आप these are the laws, औरतें गाड़ी चला सकती नहीं चला सकती. So I just decided this is too overwhelming, so I'm just gonna go inward.
Beautiful.
I cannot handle the chaos around me. I will just handle the chaos within me. And that peace, when I found that's when I realized that no matter what anybody says, they're very affected by the environment around them. They're not really in touch with perhaps what's going on inside them.
So I think that this is where organically Allah Ta'ala हमें ले जाते हैं, you know, when somebody is truly seeking sincerely. तो जैसे automatically अलीज़े की ये अनुशे की अनुशे की एक intuitive journey रही, right, to go within. और this is a quote by Rumi, and he says that yesterday I was clever and I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise and I want to change myself. And
a lot of people are anti-Rumi as well, right? Because they think he was too open. But I get it. Again, you're entitled to your opinion. But if anything makes you dislike or hate somebody else and their choices, that's when it starts worrying me, because I don't want Islam to ever be known as a religion that taught people to, you know, dislike or create any sort of violence or hate in anybody's heart.
Yeah, and I think that happens when it's me against you वाली जब बात होती है ना, separation or exclusivity, that हमारी दूसरों से बरतरी है, we are somehow better than the other, which is again arrogance. तो फिर हम separate हो जाते हैं और फिर हम कहते हैं I'm better than you, so you know I will go into heaven, you will not. वो सारी चीज़ें शुरू हो जाती है. और जो peace and harmony that we are looking for, that gets disrupted completely. और sometimes we have to understand कि inner chaos gets reflected in outer chaos. जब there are inner insecurities, there are inner panics and anxieties, तो उसको काबू में लाने के लिए sometimes we use these outer हरबे जिसमें हम we try to control the outside. कि हम लोगों को कंट्रोल करने लगते हैं, एनवायरनमेंट्स को कंट्रोल करने लगते हैं, रिलीजन्स को कंट्रोल करने लगते हैं, मीडिया को कंट्रोल करने लगते हैं, हर चीज़ को मैनिपुलेट करते हैं, सेंसर करते हैं, सो दैट फ्रीडम ऑफ चॉइस दैट अल्लाह हैज गिवन अस एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स, एज हिज खलीफतुल्लाह, एज द रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स ऑफ गॉड ऑन अर्थ, वो लोग हमसे लेने लगते हैं. एंड when you were talking about people judging in Pakistan and the lack of education, what I remembered is कि खुदा खुद हमें कह रहा है कि एक यौम दीन आएगा जिस दिन हमारी जजमेंट होगी, लेकिन शायद लोगों ने खुद अपने हाथों में वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले ली है कि आज ही उन्होंने सबको जज करना है. And that is very disturbing, towards minorities especially.
Yeah, towards minorities.
It gets very disturbing.
Just real quickly, also wanted to shed light on how, with my mental health and the fact that I've discussed at length the fact that I used to get anxiety and stuff. So a lot of people used to tell me it's happening because you don't say your prayers regularly, or you haven't turned to God the way you should have, or you have a dog, because I do. And I was like, Anami, I love him too much, please, how do I do? And all these little bargaining that I was doing on a personal level. कि मैं नमाज पढ़ रही हूँ, मुझे कुत्ता रखने दे. I'm going to give so much charity कि मैं कुत्ता रख लेती हूँ, या मैं रेडियो चैनल पे म्यूजिक के लिए काम कर लेती हूँ. So many different sorts of questions that arose in my head. But spirituality in tandem with help from a therapist, help from a doctor, a good support system, that's what I found complete, like a wholesome sort of healing solution.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yes.
So I would also always want to remind you that yes, prayer makes your heart peaceful. Prayer makes your heart closer to God. It gives you a sense of calm. And having said that, I think God has also made people able to help other people in the form of doctors, therapists, healers, like Fatimah herself. So these people are there to help you. So reach out and get that help, and stick with your spirituality and make a combination that works well for you. So for me, if my morning routine is say Surya Rahman and then my namaz or whatever it is, by evening I'm like yoga also, and I go for a walk also, and because in nature also you see God.
Absolutely.
And once aap niyat kar lete hain that every action is going to be a service to Allah Miyan, then whether you are socializing, whether you're working, whether you're walking, whether you're painting, or whether you're working in the hospital, you are in prayer 24/7. Yes. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Quran mein actually Allah says, I did not create you except for you to worship me. So worship is not just sitting on the prayer mat. Worship is thinking of your beloved. Where हम idol worship करते हैं, तो वो idol worship is being in awe of your idol. तो जब हम अल्लाह की worship करते हैं, तो we are in awe of him all the time. And that is worship. To be in awe of your God all the time then makes you accountable moment to moment. Yeah. And that is presence of mind, and that is mindfulness, which is what we try to understand through meditation. And this is this beautiful book that Anoushy
nice?
It's amazing.
I don't know how you feel about it.
I love this book, and I'm not through with it, but whatever I've read, I wanted to share something.
Yeah.
The Road Less Traveled, and the author Scott Peck, he says something in the preface when he's starting.
He does talk about spiritual growth.
Exactly.
As a Christian.
He's actually saying that I will be using the word mind and soul interchangeably. So I want to understand how you believe that your mental health and its growth has been almost in line with your spiritual growth. Is there any connection that you felt?
I have. My mental health has got a lot to do with my spiritual growth, and my spiritual growth has a lot to do with my mental health. So when I initially was not feeling too well in life, and I felt like I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, and this low level sort of depression started kicking in. I used to see my mother pray, and again, by teaching by example, I interviewed a lot of people. I interviewed people from the Shia sect of thought, the Sunni sect of thought, because I was an interviewer. I didn't have a choice. There was Ramzan and I had to interview people, right? I interviewed the late Junaid Jamshed, who went from music to and the pressures that he faced, ever wanting to get back to music and whatever, and he was like, I can't even talk about it on TV and Anoushy, may God bless his soul as well. And I found that, again, वो जो मियाना रवि और जो हमने बीच की बात की थी, so a little bit of everything, a little bit of mind, a little bit of soul, fused together creates for a more wholesome human being. So for me, yes, this helped my spiritual growth, because it doesn't talk about a religion in particular. This gentleman died, he was a psychiatrist, he's American, but it helped me in my own faith because it just talks about growing spiritually and the importance of how it helps people with mental health conditions as well, and people who are struggling, and how your spiritual growth makes your healing more wholesome. And for me, that was the focal point. Doctors helped me, my support system helped me, my family still helps me, but religion at that time and having faith in Allah kept me alive, and that's big. So that kept me alive, and these guys made me better. So it was like, again, your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, everything being treated simultaneously, and having faith that things will get better because Allah is watching or has my back. You kind of kept me, okay, okay, this will pass. Just sleep it off, it'll pass, So that happened, and then I started getting really emotional about it. I started crying about it, and I started connecting with God. I went scuba diving, and that's when I started discovering God in nature, which I really now talk about all the time, because I feel like I want to become this environmentalist. So I want to go back to school and I want to learn, and get a degree in environmental studies or something. I think we're back here. So I wanted to do all of that because I was like, यार उसमें भी आप अल्लाह के नाम में काम कर सकते हैं. बिल्कुल. आपकी तबीयत भी हो सकती है. बेशक आप जानवर बचाओ, आप पानी बचाओ, आप environment study करो, आप literature study करो, आप poetry लिखो, आप art करो, आप music करो. अगर आप इस नियत से कर रहे हो कि मैं अल्लाह की राह में और अल्लाह की तरफ से लोगों के लिए कुछ अच्छा कर रही हूँ, तो मेरे ख्याल से वो नियत तो उनके पास फौरन पहुंच जाती है, and it kind of transcends all humans in the middle. So that lack of care about what this person is thinking about my actions is so liberating. Beautiful. It's so liberating. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to not feel like you need to offer an explanation to everybody for your choices.
लोग क्या कहेंगे?
क्योंकि मैंने बहुत किया था पहले.
Okay.
And it really did affect my mental health.
Okay, तो ये चीज़ कि लोग क्या कहेंगे और लोग क्या सोचेंगे और मुझे उनकी expectations पे पूरा उतरना चाहिए या उनके कुछ standards हैं, it started to affect your mental health in a negative way.
Because people were like, oh, when are you gonna get married? When to married? I was like, chalo, शादी कर लेती हूँ जल्दी से. Then I was ready to be in a relationship that was clearly not working out for me, because I just wanted to, be married, because I thought this is the time. Then people were like, if you don't get married now, when are you going to have children? So I was like, yeah, you're right. If I want children, I must get married right now. Then of course people were like, oh, you have depression because you're not religious enough. You've turned your face away from God and you play music for a living, and I was like, okay, ये सही कर सकते हैं. And then when that crash came with all the stress and everything, that's when God really opened his doors, arms, whatever you want to call it, in a way that I became indifferent to all the voices around me.
Wow.
I don't know what happened.
I think Allah chose you and picked you for a private
and now when somebody tells me शादी कब होगी, तो I keep asking them, ऐसा दुआ करें ना आंटी हो जाए, क्यों नहीं हो रही पता नहीं, I just trick them. Then they're like, बच्चा कब होगा? तो I was like, पता आंटी, मैंने अल्लाह में यहाँ पे छोड़ दिया है, अगर बच्चा है मेरे नसीब में तो होगा, अगर बच्चा नहीं है तो कोई बात नहीं, जो अल्लाह की मर्जी है मैं अल्लाह की मर्जी से बहुत मुतमईन हूँ और मैं बहुत ही पीस में हूँ with what God has destined for me. Marriage or not, children or not, you know.
Yeah.
But there is ample love in my life.
My God.
And I'm full of it. So that's something that's made me really calm. So now when people are like, oh, but you should be married, or people are like, oh, but you should have been a mother, I was
surrendered. So
I just surrendered. I was like, you know,
Mashallah.
I put myself in your hands, and once you do that,
Subhanallah.
everything is kind of lifted off my shoulders.
Beautiful.
And it's not my problem anymore. I'm just doing what my heart tells me to do to my best ability. And things work
That's
out.
why I fall in love with her every time I talk to her.
Thank you.
She inspires me so much, and it's so beautiful because you know the word Muslim. It comes from taslim. Islam comes from taslim, and taslim means to surrender.
Yeah.
And a true Muslim is someone like her who is handing herself over to God and surrendering her life and her choices and everything and saying, God, मैंने अपनी तरफ से सब try कर लिया. I've tried my best. Now you decide, and I will. Comply with what you choose for me, because वो कहते हैं ना कि जब आपके plans टूट जाएं और नहीं चलें तो फिर now you should be happy कि अब अल्लाह के plans चलेंगे.
And अब वो आपको उस वक्त नजर नहीं आता, but क्योंकि अब मेरी relationship को भी खत्म हो गया, nearly married and stuff like that, उसको थोड़ा सा time हो गया, so once you take a space from it, you begin to see things very clearly, and you're like, ooh, now I know what Allah was doing all along, and why this worked out the way it did. And when you take that space, you actually understand, the miracles that happen in your life once you start reflecting on it.
Beautiful.
You know, that the amazing things that have happened.
The bird's eye view gives you this understanding कि वो जो मालिक है वो एक बहुत शफकत वाली माँ की तरह आपको प्रोटेक्ट कर रहा था और आपको डेंजर से खतरे से निकाल रहा था, और उस वक्त आपको अटैचमेंट थी, राइट, कि वो मेरे लिए अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे, like fire is looking attractive but your hands gonna burn, right? And he beautifully takes you away from it. उस वक्त तकलीफ भी होती है, पेन भी होता है, दिल भी टूट जाता है.
That's why when I was reading that Yuval Harari, who is again that Jewish writer, ex-Jewish but Israeli, I was like, he's had a bad. He's bitter maybe somewhere, and maybe that's why he refuses to say that God is. He refuses to believe that God exists, and he's got a lot of good arguments going on, because he's like, at the end of the day, cancer is cured by doctors. It's not cured by prayer, right? But the kind of peace and the kind of calm that you find knowing that surrendering. I mean, it's much better than any sort of argument that you may have. Imagine living a life where you feel like you found bliss.
Wow.
Then you don't question. Then you're not worried about anything.
Yeah.
And so when people said again, kutta or hijab or this or that, I was just like, Lamia, you got my back. I only believe in you. I know the dog is a bit of an issue. Then I read about it, and then I found articles online that said ki kutta rakhna haram nahi. So I even shared that with my mother, my khala. I was like, look, you guys. They're like, you are twisting religion to your convenience, Anoushy. So I told them one thing, and I was like, well, it's out there. It's out there by an alim. Right. So I mean, twisting or not, if I choose to follow this guy, he said it's okay.
but I find it so fascinating. Just off the topic.
Yeah.
The one animal very venerated and respected in Quran is the dog of the Ashab-e Kahf. The people of the cave, there is a name given to that dog, and he's respectfully written that he was protecting them.
Right.
तो वो उनके साथ सोया हुआ है अभी भी आज भी और उसका जिक्र है कुरान में, so हमें नहीं पता कि हम किसको कब जज कर रहे हैं, and we should be humble to be open to new truths. We don't know, but बड़ा मुश्किल होता है, very so like Anoushy is saying कि you understand your combination of what works for you and what combinations work
because
for you.
When you open the books, you will find everything. There are actually some Muslims who think you don't need to worry about keeping a dog. You can. There's some who say you absolutely cannot. Then there are some who say that you don't necessarily need to take the hijab. I'm saying some really controversial things. There's some who say you do. But they're all learned people.
Yes.
And if it's you thinking I'm twisting religion to my convenience, possibly. But if I feel like I'm not harming, hurting, or going out of my way to, नुकसान पहुंचाना किसी और को, then फिर मैं अल्लाह में इसको बात करूँगी.
I like that. But you know, in the end, Anoushy, the thing is कि आपकी नीयत क्या है? क्या आपकी नीयत वाकई में किसी को मैनिपुलेट करना है या लूप होल्स ढूंढना है या you know is there any malicious intention या आप you're actually a very struggling, weak, humble, flawed human being who's really trying to make it work, you know, and get by every day. Every day is a struggle for a lot of us with depression, anxiety and panic. हमारा moment to moment जो होता है वो एक thread से हम लटके हुए होते हैं, you know, and we are trying to make things work and others don't know कि अंदर क्या चल रहा है, you know, और वो faith की एक thread होती है, एक rope of God होती है जो हमें, you know, it's getting us by. You know, so
you know, you're talking about mental health. I just want to put this out there that there's a bill now. I know there's less time. पता ही नहीं चला. There's a bill that's being passed in the court of law, and please excuse me if I'm wrong, but it's on the lines of that a person who tries to say complete suicide or maybe make an attempt, since you're talking about depression and mental health, it will not be considered a crime anymore. Imagine it was considered a crime. People are put to jail, not realizing that the person who is making this attempt to take their own life is suffering like you've never suffered before.
वो अपनी hell में जल रहा है.
वो अपनी hell में इतना जल गया कि he cannot see a way out.
Right.
So instead of being punished, he needs to be understood and he needs to be helped.
Yes.
And yes, suicide is haram, but not because God is going to banish you and I mean I don't know, but because there's hope that things will get better. You have to trust God, and that's why it should not be an option. Not because it's Gunan, because we've been taught that, right? And I was like, you know, I guess you have to be suicidal at some point to know what it feels like.
To understand
and
have that empathy.
And have that empathy for people.
Yes.
So yeah, all of those things come into play.
So Anoushy, please tell me how did you feel about taking help in times of that low time, down time where you were at your lowest? Do you think that religious scholars attracted you or made you feel that you could approach them or they made you feel comfortable, or was it therapists or doctors?
My religious scholar was Imam Ali. I picked up the Peak of Eloquence and I just read it. I have been going to, you know, when I was young, I used to go to madrasas on Saturdays where we first met. Then I started with my mother going to some, you know, sermons and stuff like that, and I never really resonated with me. Unfortunately, it didn't. In fact, I remember going to one of these places and there was a lady over there, she was reading and she looked at me and she was like, और हमारी बेटियां आजकल टीवी पे काम कर रही हैं और you know, तो फिर मैं वहाँ से उठी, मैंने कहा मैं निकल जाती हूँ. This is not inviting enough.
It's a
judgy attack on me.
It's a judgy comment.
It's a judgy comment.
And it is not prophetic.
क्योंकि मैं बहुत मेहनत कर आ रही हूँ अभी अपने टीवी शो से और मुझे इसकी जरूरत नहीं है. So I decided to, you know,
Anoushy, you do amazing work on TV. You are changing the world bit by bit with your goodness on TV. It is such a good medium for you to do that. I'm all here to defend you for the work you do.
No, but what I was coming at was at the end. So it wasn't anything but in Muharram and in Ramzan I decided I'm going to start listening to lectures online and not go to places in person.
Okay.
Unless it's really, you know, somebody who's visiting or very learned or somebody I respect.
Okay.
And I got references of a few people, and now I know one sheikh in particular who I listen to every day, by the way, in the morning. And then there are other people who I listen to online.
Yes.
So during all of Muharram, I mean, I do the regular करना चाहिए, जाना चाहिए, participation होनी चाहिए, रमज़ान में होनी चाहिए, you know, शब मेराज में होनी चाहिए. All these days, मैं हमेशा अपने cousins who are more religiously inclined उनसे पूछते रहती हूँ कि आज की रात कौन सी दुआएं हैं.
Right.
मैं 1 घंटा ही बेशक पढ़ लूँ, लेकिन मैं पढ़ लूँ, you know, कि थोड़ी सी बख्शिश हो जाए. लेकिन कहने का मकसद ये था कि it just came to me directly. It didn't come through anybody.
Right.
But then when it came in a way that it started now coming through people like Fatimah or Faiza, who I met, the Iraq crew that I went with, where I saw people who were like me and they were still welcoming, and they were like, no matter what you do, you know, pray, ask for what you want. And the person that we all went with, like, he never once told me what I was doing wrong, but just kept encouraging me for all that he thought I was doing right. And that was so encouraging. That was just so encouraging that I was like,
yeah. And because we need people like Sheikh Arif in the circles of religion who will show that face of mercy with God, right? Who will show that
unity for humans, beyond Muslims,
and
right?
acceptance in who you are, where you are, whatever your background is, and where you're coming
because
from.
Because at the end of the day, if Rasulullah is watching us today, if Imam Ali is watching us today, if Imam Hussain is watching us today, what do they really want from us? They want Muslims to be one. They don't want us to hate on each other, which is what certain sects really do, right?
Yes.
And I think he has made a definite attempt to bring people closer.
Absolutely.
And
you know,
because that was the ultimate solution. I mean, और क्या करना है हमने कितना लड़ते knowing the truth is one thing. Yes. But constantly fighting for what you think is right, even today. And this is from both sides.
And our saints taught us that, right? To choose unity and peace over any other discord. और जो ये हम मुसलमान अपने आप को बोलते हैं और हम कहते हैं कि तौहीद में हमारा यकीन है, तो तौहीद इत्तेहाद, you know, unity, oneness is the principle of being Muslim. You know, it's what coming to that place of oneness is our ultimate aim. So, you know, how are we going to get to that is by having empathy, having more conversations, you know, meeting people on a human level instead of labeling people. And what labeling does is that it creates more walls and boundaries, right?
Yeah, it categorizes you.
Exactly.
It creates a little space between you and others.
Yes. So we have now just got 5 more minutes, and I want to ask you.
I was like, I just quickly want to say that Fatimah, thank you so much for this.
It
was so
interesting an honor for me.
And you are doing such a great job yourself. You know, you're so well learned. You know so many stories. You teach so well. You know so much more about religion than I would ever know, and you have been so welcoming and nice about it. You know.
And with all my heart, because you know this is where I've come to that. खुदा के जो दोस्त होते हैं ना, वो किसी खास कपड़ों में छुपे नहीं होते, वो अबा कबा में नहीं होते, वो अमामों में नहीं होते, वो उस तरह बुचर्स की तरह होते हैं. You know, like हज़रत मूसा का जो फ्रेंड था जन्नत में, you know, you don't know they're hidden. You know, हज़रत इब्राहीम के बारे में कहा जाता है कि अल्लाह ने हज़रत इब्राहीम से कहा कि आपकी नेशन में एक वो शख्स है जो सबसे बेहतरीन है मेरी नज़र में. तो हज़रत इब्राहीम ने ये नहीं कहा कि वो मैं होऊंगा. तो हज़रत इब्राहीम ने कहा वो कौन है, मुझे उससे मिलने जाना है, और उसको ढूंढने निकल गए, और वो ढूंढे और अल्लाह ने कहा इब्राहीम वो आप है. You know, imagine. So that's the level of humility. And that's why I really feel that, you know, this is why, you know, I don't ever want anyone, you know, ये मेरा passion था बचपन से कि I want to show this beautiful, lovely face of God to everybody. You know, that is in you, that is in me, that is in all the beauty that we see around us. You know,
I think it was Idi Saab when people were complaining to him that, you know, there's आपकी ambulances जो हैं वो हिंदूज को उठा रही हैं और उनको सर्व कर रही हैं, ये क्या तरीका है. तो मुझे याद है कि ईदी साहब का एक कोट था, वो ज़बरदस्त था. He's like, that's because my ambulance is more Muslim than you.
Oh wow! Oh my God!
मेरी ambulance is आपसे बेहतर मुसलमान.
Oh my God! And it's reminding me of
discriminate नहीं करती हमारी ambulances. हम सबको उठाएंगे और सबकी मदद करेंगे.
Amazing. And you know, just one last story of Hazrat Imam Ali Zainul Abidin. He was walking into the city with his slave, and they had a little food in their hand. और जैसे वो entered हो रहे थे city wall से, so they saw that one man was dying of hunger and thirst, and you could hardly make it to the city. तो वो उसके पास गए और उसकी तीमारदारी की, उसको पानी दिया, उसको गोद में उसका सर रखा और उसको खाना खिलाने लगे. तो जो slave था वो बहुत दूर रह रहा था. He was trying to stay away. तो इमाम ने कहा क्या हो गया, तुम क्यों नहीं आ रहे? He said, आपको पता है ना ये इस्लाम का सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन है और आप उसको अपनी गोद में लेके उसकी तीमारदारी कर रहे हैं, आपको पता नहीं है शायद. इमाम ने कहा मैं अच्छी तरह जानता हूँ, लेकिन दुश्मन होने से पहले ये मेरा भाई है इंसानियत में. you know. So there's no
People
discrimination.
are your
there.
equal in religion, or your brother, or your brothers in faith, and your equals in humanity.
Absolutely.
Thank
So-
you. I think this is my phone's gonna disconnect any minute now.
Okay, so thank you everybody
Thank
for joining
you.
us and listening to us so patiently. We had such a good time.
We had a great
I had
time.
the
Maybe
most
we'll do this again one more time.
It
At
was
some
really,
point.
really amazing. Thank you for your beautiful comments. We didn't go through all the comments today, but thank you for all your love.
We'll see you soon again.
See you.
Yeah, I'm going to be tagging and I'm going to be sharing this on my Insta. It's going to be on my feed, so please refer to it if and when you want.
Inshallah, it'll be same on my feed, and you can hear it anytime. Take care. Hafiz everyone.
Hafiz. Okay. And mine from here. Okay, and now, yes. Share. Scoot out. Yeah, that was nice.
So good.
Share.
Did I just lose it?
Did you?